On Monday night, from February 24th, the details of Project Luminous were presented to the media for the first time. The presentation was delayed, much like most of the new Star Wars projects that have been announced, starting 30 minutes late. The introduction of the writers and a video presentation was shown about the process of creating 5 new stories for this Disney effort to create a unifying storyline. These stories are balanced across a wide range of publishing interests, including IDW, Marvel Comics, Del Rey Books, etc. And it's all set about 200 years prior to the Phantom Menace, in a period of time they're going to be calling the High Republic. Why not the Old Republic? I don't know, but they chose to go this direction. This period, they say, will not interfere with any of the previous movies that we've enjoyed as fans, but that doesn't mean it won't bump up against some of our favorite characters, because Yoda's lived a very long time and you're still in that wheelhouse where you would see Yoda. They are targeting 1 book and 1 comic at each of the YA folks and the children, and 1 book at adults. So they've spread out their indoctrination equally. I mean, they've spread it out across the audience and fan base. Well, at least they think they have. Again, I guess we can get to that later. Since this is coming out of Kathleen Kennedy's woke agenda story group, I don't really have a high hopes for it, and I can tell you that hidden amongst the tainted hidden gems that were in the video presentation, there was a whiteboard that is causing everybody a great deal of consternation. These whiteboard images, as they've been shown across the internet in various ways, you can see them yourself. Just pause their little video about it. Demonstrates that there's going to be a clear, interwoven political agenda, woke narrative message included in every single one of their stories. And I'm not talking about the obvious stuff like the anti-war message that was on the whiteboard, when clearly Star Wars is, war's right in the name, as many have pointed out, so that's imbecilic. I'm also not talking about the actual direct woke agenda ideas, like the diversity and things like that appearing on the board multiple times. I'm not even talking about dinosaurs, which is written with an exclamation point. That is right up there. Maybe they meant creatures. I don't know. It seems moronic. But to me, it's clear that they're having a huge effort trying to rewrite what was already in the expanded universe, taking various elements and just poisoning the well that was carefully crafted over a very long period of time. With George not sitting in the room with the writers that they'd put together at Skywalker Ranch, and with the narrative directives from Kathleen Kennedy and her despicable story group, I have to believe that destruction to canon and continuity is going to be a regular occurrence in this new batch of stories. And it's all going to be in an effort to service a political agenda, which is total garbage. Anyway, Star Wars is a story because these people don't understand it. Star Wars begins in a time of war. It covers a building conflict. It covers the war itself, or wars itself, and it covers the resolution and the results of those wars. It is a study of a primary character on his journey from point A to point B. It has very significant interwoven interrelated characters that they rely on and spend time with throughout their journey. It is the quintessential hero's journey. It's a quest, and it's within all of that. It's set within the Star Wars galaxy. Uh, this is even more true when you look at Luke Skywalker's journey or Anakin Skywalker's journey. The galaxy and the world beyond the character is the tapestry that their stories are being played out upon. The events, the monsters, the different various combatants and enemies that they come across, and these challenges all exist to develop the hero character and the ancillary characters, the co-stars, the gang, the troop, whatever term you want to use, and it gets that growth of those experiences takes our hero to his final goal or the end of his quest, and the discovery of what lies beyond that quest, because oftentimes we find we've reached our goal and there's yet another horizon to reach. And honestly, this is what the most recent trilogy of movies completely failed to do, in almost every respect. And these new stories and their tainted storylines at the very inception are going to suffer the same fate. There's no doubt about it. The minute you inject something that doesn't follow the tried and true storytelling, you destroy it. And shoving something into something that works is a fool's errand. I do not doubt that the shakeup that took place yesterday, which that's in real time, but that would be February 25th, was in part due to the collapsing of the brand of Star Wars, and probably the soon-to-be declining brand of Marvel. The investors and the board of directors, these are large media companies, so they see the brazen approach that the creators inside Disney are taking when it comes to these properties, and they're recognizing what's happening. They don't like to lose money. They especially don't like to lose money on properties that they've recently acquired. Disney purchased Star Wars because of its value, and it wasn't a cheap purchase price at $4.4 billion. And this property that they purchased in Star Wars hasn't returned its purchase price. It's not even close now, because they spent an additional $2 billion, a little more than $2 billion, on two different theme park expansions at Disneyland and Disney World that gave over 14 acres of land, and as I mentioned, at a price tag of $1 billion or so apiece. The board of directors and an increasing number of investors are also aware of the culture war that's going on in our country right now and its effect on their bottom line. That effect has not been good for those media companies or any of the media companies that have been falling into this woke wagon. And again, as I mentioned, the approach that the Disney creators are taking are directly affecting the bottom line, and that's from the writers and the directors all the way to the showrunner and the leader of Lucasfilm itself. Movie yields have indicated a lower number of patrons despite the increases in the per ticket sale dollars, because the revenue's measured in dollars and not in people, but that's a lot of people you're missing out on because of this political messaging that nobody wants any part of anymore. The merchandise, specifically Star Wars, is no longer desirable outside of, save The Mandalorian and Baby Yoda specifically. The bulletproof golden goose that was the Star Wars brand has lost its luster. As the woke ideals have crept in, it's removed the shiny gilding on that goose, and it's done it in such a caustic way that it's nearly impossible. Not impossible. It's nearly irreparable. That's probably a better way of saying that. With an alarming number of insiders dropping stories around the MCU and its increasing woke measuring sticks, it seems that the character appropriators are dead set on killing that brand too. From gender swapping and sexual identity politics and outright male shaming, the message for the next phase of Marvel, both on the large screen and the small screen, that message could be its death knell. The last thing the MCU needs is the burden of these tainted ideas being carried by a lesser group of heroes than the first however many phases there were to get us to Endgame. The B team is not going to be able to suffer the weight of this. It's just not. Circling back to Bob Iger, his stated reasons for stepping down could be to correct a disturbance in the Force. To correct the destructive narrative of wokeness that's killing off the creativity in his company. It could be to help transition Bob Chapek into his new role as CEO. More on Mr. Chapek later. I've got a lot to say about him. Or it could be the rumored reasons that were speculated upon that he's preparing for his political career. Maybe a VP nod, possibly in this election, or gearing up his political mechanisms and machines to prepare to run in 4.5 years. But regardless, there have been some whispers that I'm inclined to believe to a certain extent that the board forced the issue on Bob Iger. They wanted him to step back to fix the debacle that was happening with these creative brands that they've invested a lot of money in Star Wars and Marvel. 22 months, he might have time to do that. We'll see. And if that's the case, I think actually all of those reasons are perfectly good for the action that was taken. But it seems like it still brings me back to the fact that a Project Luminous announcement was one day, and the very next day Bob Iger is out. That you can't look past that at all. Maybe the board's response to Project Lunacy, Project Luminous, was the final straw that broke the camel's back. I don't know. Now, the future of the company is resting on the shoulders of a person who is the very embodiment of the word bland. He has zero public speaking ability. He has no presence. We would say stage presence, but he doesn't have any presence. No art of show. He's milquetoast. He is not inspiring in any way, and that's something that you need to be as the head of companies nowadays, because you are speaking to investors and board members on a regular basis and trying to pump up your stock on television and get your brand out there in front of as many people as possible. But at the same time, he's an incredibly destructive force. He is a bean counter. He is solely responsible for cutbacks in theming and entertainment across the theme parks, which is a huge revenue stream for Disney. It's the only one they've been able to rely on consistently for the last decade. As the movie studios businesses have gone up and down, and the animation studio businesses have gone up and down. they've spent a lot of money building up their cruise business, which that costs a lot of money. It's $1 billion plus per ship. So, but he's single-handedly responsible for Galaxy's Edge and the cutbacks there, and the fact that it's not nearly as immersive as it was presented, with cutbacks on entertainment, with cutbacks on the immersive nature of it, interactive things. He's solely responsible for the fact that there's only 2 attractions there. There were potentially 4, then 3, and I can tell you that riding an animatronic dewback or something similar would have been an incredible experience when you were touring around the outside of Galaxy's Edge's Black Spire, which is what that area is actually called. And again, it was originally branded Tatooine, and through rushes that Bob Iger saw, it got changed from Tatooine into this Black Spire outpost based on the positive things he saw in the movie, thinking he could brand this towards the future rather than towards the past. But I guarantee you, everybody that walks in there is looking for Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader, Han Solo, Princess Leia. Those are the characters that the majority of the fans, especially the adults that are dragging their children along, are actually looking for. Anyway, he's also Bob Chapek. Getting back to him, he's also responsible for cutbacks so much that they lost a restaurant and some other things. In fact, if you want to live your Star Wars story, you're not going to do it at Galaxy's Edge right now. You're going to be able to do it theoretically at the new Star Wars Hotel, which has an absolutely immersive environment that you'll be able to step into and just kind of take your place in a story that unfolds around you at all times, provided Bob Chapek doesn't do any cutbacks. We'll see. He's also, outside of the Star Wars Galaxy Edge area of the park, he's also solely responsible for the homogenization of all of the Disney hotels and the cutbacks on theming and things of that nature. He wants to cut budgets. He wants to limit spending. So your experience in a Disney hotel, let's say a very expensive one like Wilderness Lodge, the value of that has been lost or decreased because you've gone from a very well-themed bedroom to an Embassy Suites room. The cost cutting that was done at the new Riviera is 100% his fault and led to a very bland presentation in those rooms. Not to mention a cutback in square footage, and you're still paying a premium price to stay in those properties. I can go on a lot about Mr. Chapek. I'm not a big fan. He is the problem that we thought we got rid of when we got rid of Paul Pressler. And again, I've got a lot of Disney information stuck up in this cranium. I never thought we'd have another one of these guys just counting beans. But it comes down to the people in charge, unfortunately, at that company. And with him in charge and him having zero understanding of what the Disney difference is, any visitor to any of their theme parks, possibly even their cruise lines, who knows, is going to have a lesser valued experience than they did a few years ago. And I'll argue that the value at the properties, it's the theme parks and the cruise lines, have been going down as their prices have gone up dramatically over the last 4, 5, 6 years. Anyway, like I said, I can go on about both of the Roberts that we're talking about, but I'm going to save that one day for another video. I can even probably do a live stream about these two men. But the company needs to be on the lookout for Chapek's replacement right now, because I don't think he's going to last long. At least I really hope he doesn't, because he is bad news for Disney. Anyway, share my opinion or not on any of these things, but I am glad that you spent time here, and I thank you for your time because I know it's valuable. If you have thoughts of your own, please communicate them. I really like to look at comments, so if you want to bounce back and forth a little bit of conversation, I'm happy to do that. If you liked the video, please click the like thingy on the bottom of the screen because that will help out a lot. I'd like to get some more traction on the channel. Please subscribe because, you'd like to see more of this content. And if you want to see it right away, make sure you click on that little bell icon so that you are notified anytime I do put something up. I hope that wherever you are in the world that you've had a great day or are about to. And remember, at Culture Casino, when the house wins, we all win.